Hey everybody, what's going on? And today on Meebles on the Ground, we are playing YOHO by Sabrewolf Games, A Pirate's Life for Me. Hello, Sarah. How goes it?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, what are we playing today?
Today we are playing YOHO, which is a game that Sabrewolf Games has sent us to review on the channel. It's for 2 to 4 players, and it is a pirate-themed card game of shifting the blame and hoping that you get away with it. So, the way that the game plays is each player is given a pirate at the start of the game. The pirates have a loyal side and a rebel side, and throughout the game you may end up flipping your alliance or allegiance. I'm not really sure which word is more applicable there, but you will end up flipping that back and forth. So you have, each player has a pirate, and then each player's pirate has a rank. At the start of the game, there has to be a captain and a quartermaster. So since we're only playing a 2-player game, Nick is the captain and I'm the quartermaster.
I am the captain now.
But even this may change throughout the game. So your pirate's sort of alignment is going to change. And then your rank as a pirate will also change. Each of the ranks has a numerical value, and it's 1 through 5. With 5 being the highest rank, and a duty, which you may have to perform at certain points of the game. So every player has a pirate and a rank, and then we also start with a hand of 5 cards, and 1 card face up in the discard pile. We start with the port course as sort of our course of travel.
Yeah.
And then this is also can be changed to the starboard course. So again, this is a card that will flip throughout the game, and different things will happen based on which side your pirate's on, which side of the course we're sort of plotting at that moment. So what happens is on your turn, you make sure that you have 5 cards in hand. If you have less than 5 cards in your hand, you draw back up till you have 5. And then you play a card from your hand to the discard pile here. You have to play it exactly on top because only the top card can ever be visible to any player. And then you perform the action. So you play a card and then you perform the action. You are attempting over the course of the game to blame the other player. In this case, it would be just Nick, since it's only a 2-player game. So I'm trying to blame
2 to
my
4 player
opponent.
games.
Well, for us,
it's only
playing a 2-player game. So I'm trying to blame my opponent by committing a, what were those red cards called?
Accusation.
Right.
Accuse.
By accusing at the appropriate time. So there are several accuse cards in the deck, and if I play one, play will immediately stop, and we will count up the number of cards in the discard pile that have our rank on them. So for example, right now there's only 1 in the deck, right? So if someone was the pariah with only 1 in the deck, they would be the player who would sort of like lose the like fight for control, I guess. Yeah.
They'd be blamed. They'd get the blame.
Right, they would get all the blame. Thank you. So they would have to take the entire pile of all of the cards that had been discarded up to that point. So over the course of the game, as you're playing cards to the discard pile, if you're paying enough attention, you can count up and know when it's a good time to blame your opponent. For example, Nick is the captain. He has a rank of 5. If I know that in the discard pile there are more cards with 5s on them than there are with 4s, which is my rank, then I know it's a good time to accuse Nick, because he'll have to take all of the blame, all the cards in the discard pile. At the end of the game, which is when the last card is drawn from this deck here, at the end of the game, we'll do the same thing. We'll add up all of the cards in every player's hand of cards that match their rank number. And that will give us some value. And then we'll also add some things based on our alignments. So if you're a loyal pirate at the end of the game, you don't have to take as many negative points as if you're a rebel pirate. If you've been able to find the treasure, there's only one treasure card in the whole deck, and if you've managed to find it and bury it, you will get some points for that. But if you had it in your hand and you hadn't buried it, you're not protecting it, then you would lose some points. So when we get to the end of the game, you add up everything that would count against you, all the blame that would count against you that's in your hand. Then you add or subtract things like the treasure or your alignment or that kind of thing. And whoever has the least amount of blame wins the game.
Cool. So let's go ahead and get started. This is exciting. Me and Sarah like pirate-themed games a lot.
Yeah.
Sarah probably a little more than me.
I do. I don't know why, but I've always been attracted to the stories and the sort of aesthetic of like pirates and piratey things. Before we turned on the camera, we were actually talking about the original Pirates of the Caribbean ride that used to be at Disney World. And about how when I was a kid, I used to just love that. I loved like the whole visual of like a pirate's life. And that was always a really attractive thing to me. They were always, having high sea adventures, and there were, fair maidens and sword fights and treasure and, sirens and ships and life at sea. And it just seemed like some grand adventure to me. As an adult, I recognized that it was probably horrifying and really unhygienic, and women were not treated well during that time in most cases, and on and on and on.
And when I was a kid, I was horrified because the animatronics kind of scared me.
So now I recognize that pirate life was probably not great. But as a kid, the tales of pirate adventure were always really fascinating to me. So yeah, I like pirates. I like pirate themed things. I really like the artwork in this game. I think it's cute, but not cutesy, right? It looks good, but it's not like, but it still fits. Pirates aren't really cute. Things about pirates aren't really cute, but this is, I don't know. It's good. I think it's good artwork. It's a little cartoony. So that softens the edge of reality about pirates a little bit. But it's also still attractive looking art, and it's a relatively small footprint game. It just fits in a regular standard size card box. But it seems like there's a bit of game here, so let's get into it. We'll see.
All right, we'll get back to you guys in a little bit. Toodles. Hello, Sarah. So how is it going for you so far?
So it's going. We're almost to the end of the game. We have just a few cards left in the deck, 3 cards left in the deck. I think when the deck runs out, the game will end. I feel like I might have the win.
Because we've played games and it's been very like squishy where it's like, or slippery I should say, because I think last game I thought I had the win and then all of a sudden it was like, whoop!
Yeah.
And then you had it. And so it was very like, wishy-washy, like, who's gonna win? Who's gonna do it? Who?
I think maybe I have the win.
I think this time.
But we'll see. What do you think of it so far?
I think for 2 players, it's a little, not bad. Just, I think it's better probably at more player counts.
Higher player counts.
At higher player counts, sorry. But as a 2-player, it's, it is, like I was saying before, we've played games and it's like, I thought I win, but then everything is kind of flipped up on the table, or flipped up, which is interesting because...
What are you saying over there?
What I'm trying to say is the game does flippity-floppities. And what I mean by flippity floppities is if you think you're going to win and then all of a sudden something changes drastically in the game. Like people take cards when they are accused, and if they get all the blame, they get all those cards, which could be like, okay, that could be a bad thing or that could be a good thing, because all of a sudden those people have all those cards at their disposal. And then it could change the aspect of the game. And then even the way that you use the abilities of said pirates, if you're the captain, or if you have whatever rank you have as the other players, you could, again, just manipulate the game like I manipulated the game we played before this, where I finished the game and I thought I was going to win, but then it found out that I was not the winner. And it was interesting that the game just kind of confused me. And it was like, okay, well, now I want to play more to try to understand it.
So one thing that I think is interesting about the game is that you can, if you have a particular card in hand, you can accuse someone. If you accuse someone, you have to go through the entire deck of blame cards that have been played, and you have to add up the numerical value of all of the blame cards that match your rank. So for example, I'm a captain, I'm a rank of 5. Nick is a sea dog, he's a rank of 2. So if I were to accuse Nick right now, we would go through this deck and we would add up all of the 2s and all of the 5s. And then we would add a couple of modifiers, and whoever had the highest value would have to take the blame. And one of the things that I think is interesting about this is that the higher cards that would force the captain to take more of the blame, there are less of them, but they're worth more, right? Like there's a bunch of 1s in here. So if we were playing with a pariah, and I accused the pariah of having more blame in here than me, the captain, then we would add up all the 1s in here, and if they had more than me with the 5s, then they would take the blame. But one of my cards is worth 5 of their cards. So there's an interesting sort of balance to the accusations.
Yeah, you really have to stay on top of things.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what it was like, if you don't stay on top of things and you think you have one thing, then all of a sudden the game could just put you on your head and you're like, oh, well, I guess I didn't have that thing, which is, you have to really pay attention in this one.
And I think that there is a bit of a memory aspect to this, which normally I hate because I don't really have a good short-term memory. Especially with stuff like this, there's like a hole in there somewhere and everything just falls right out of that hole. So I have a really, really bad short-term memory, and I don't typically enjoy games where you have to remember things that you've seen to try to do well in the game. And I think that there is a bit of that element to this here, but it feels, for whatever reason, it feels easier in this game than in some other games. Because I think it's because, so like I was saying, if I wanted to accuse Nick right now, I would be hoping that the cumulative total of all of the 2s in this deck is higher than the cumulative total of all the 5s, right? Like I said, there's a few modifiers, but that's essentially it. So that's what I would be hoping for. And I feel like in this game, because there are only numbers 1 through 5, and because there are more copies of the lower values than there are the higher, right? There's a bunch more 1s than there are 5s. So knowing all of that, and then just kind of knowing that even though we might change ranks, even though I might not be the captain for the entire game, even though I know that, right now I am the captain. And right now Nick is the sea dog. So if I can just keep track of those 2 numbers, the 5s and the 2s, if I can just keep track of how many 5s and 2s are in this deck, then I have at least a chance of accusing without placing myself in a position where I'm going to have to take all the blame.
But you also, as the captain, have to be mindful of how many of your crew is loyal,
Yes.
and like even me if I'm loyal, because that also counts against you.
Yeah.
And then you'll have to count, I think, what their ranks.
That's right.
Too.
Yeah, so like I said, there's a few modifiers, but in essence, there's very little that you actually have to remember as long as the game stays static, right? If it changes, then you might be in a little bit of hot water. But as long as you remain the rank that you are, you can at least know whether or not if you accuse someone, you'll actually be like putting yourself in a position where you're going to be forced to take the blame when you were the one who issued the accusation. Yeah. So the memory element to this game isn't as demanding, I think, as it is in some other games. And it's been more of a mental exercise for me than a simple little card game probably should be. But I know that about myself, that I don't have a very good short-term memory. So it makes sense. But it's not as frustrating as some of the memory elements of other games for me. So that's been kind of nice. It's still something I've got to keep in mind, still something I have to keep track of, but it feels easier to keep track of than like typical memory elements of games.
Okay. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and get back into it and finish up our game and see who is the top pirate captain, the top dog of this food chain, and then we'll see who's going to walk the plank and meet Davy Jones in his very selective and few and famous locker. So yeah, all right, we'll see you guys in a sec. Toodles. What was that song you were just singing a second ago, Sarah?
Yo-ho, yo-ho, pirate's life for me.
Because you are the pirate queen.
I am the pirate queen.
I'm just some salty dog that's a traitorous son of a gun and that walked the plank for it.
So I think this game is really cute. I really like the general presentation of it. The artwork is cute, and I think everything looks great. I think that the quality is just fine. It's not particularly great, but it's not bad either.
The card quality is pretty good.
I do think, though, this would be better with more players.
Yeah, I do think that as well, that this should be played at higher player counts.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not terrible. It's not
I don't think
bad.
it's like broken.
Yeah, it's not broken at 2. It's just.
But I just think it would be more fun with 3 or 4 players.
Yeah, definitely.
But I do like it. It's a little
unpredictable.
Unpredictable. That's a great word for it. It's a little unpredictable. But I think that could add to the fun if you were playing at a higher player count. Yeah. At 2, it's just kind of random without purpose. But I think at 3 or 4, it would be random and fun. So I think 2 is probably not the best player count for it, but I would like to try it again with 3 or 4, because I really do think it could probably be some fun. I think you could have a lot of fun with it, because the things that are random without purpose in a 2-player game, I think they would be random, but they would be fun and interesting in a 3 or 4-player game.
Yeah, definitely. I really agree with that, just because there was a lot of cool things going on, and if there were more players involved in our games, it would have more of an effect, like switching ranks.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be switching ranks with just, just cards in the middle. We'd be switching with other players.
So at the start of the game, every player gets a rank and a pirate, and throughout the game, there's a lot of cards where this particular rank will be demoted. So, like, for example, if the bosun was demoted, then the bosun and the sea dog would swap places. So if, player 3 was the bosun and player 4 was the sea dog, well, the bosun would get demoted and become the sea dog would get promoted and become the bosun. And so, and there's a lot of cards that deal with situations like that, where it demotes one card or promotes another. So I think with higher player counts, with more players controlling these, instead of just being like set off to the side that like they are in a 2-player game, I think that could be a lot of fun, because then the players would be changing ranks a lot in the game, instead of just sort of like the non-player characters getting like just mixed, you know, like this.
Yeah, just
like that's not as interesting as if like we actually change cards, right?
Yeah.
So I think with more players, it would be more interesting and more fun. It was pretty unique, though, I think, and I think that it was definitely cool. I would just like to try it again with a higher player count.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I would definitely say this game would be better at higher player counts. It was goofy. It was fun. It was nice to try to kind of like strategize and make things work in your way in a 2-player. But there are just so many situations where that just kind of doesn't really happen, and things just get mixed up. But yeah. So that was our vlog of YOHO by Sabrewolf Games. You only hang once.
I do like that tagline. You only hang once.
Yeah, only hang once. Except in my case, in games we've been playing, I've been hanging multiple times. It's like that meme or something like that. This is your first time? Or something like that.
I don't know what that is.
Well, until next time, we'll talk to you guys later. Toodles!